thank you for joining me for an email breakdown, Jill. Um, to get us started, could I ask you to tell us just a little bit about yourself and kind of how you came to be receiving the email that we're going to kind of be looking at today?
Sure. So I work with people that are at the end of life, and it can be a bit heavy sometimes. I mean, mostly I really love the work. But I started really getting interested in art the last like 6 months or so, just to try to bring something into my life that is not being on my phone, scrolling social media, talking and thinking about death all the time. So I started looking at different people that were doing trainings and things online. And I found this person. She had done a free training that I actually didn't even end up attending because I think, like a lot of people, we sign up for them and then realize we don't have time for it. But I stayed on her list because I really like the content that she kind of provides in the list. Plus, she'll put like links to her YouTube videos where she'll show you like little techniques that you can try. And so that's kind of how I ended up on the list. And that's really why I stayed, because I do find that there's value in it. Even though she is selling something, she's still providing the value that I really like.
Yeah. And I think what struck me when you sent me this email is that word you just used, like value. And we hear it a lot kind of not just in email marketing, but marketing in general. It's like, oh, you should give value in the, to your to your audience. And sometimes that can be really vague, but
Mhm.
it felt like here, and we'll scroll through it, but you'll see kind of like she gives that value, doesn't she? She kind of gives you like something to do, a YouTube video, breaks down the task, and then does the sell to you at the end. So it doesn't feel like it's join my membership. It's kind of, yeah, here's
Yeah.
something you can be doing, that value piece that you mentioned, then going into the call to action, which I thought was quite clever.
Yeah, and I think this one in particular, like you can even see there on that kind of like second bolded line, like, what if I'm disappointed in what I make? I think this is partially why I chose this one, because, as somebody that I'm not a trained artist, I'm really just doing it for fun. But there's certainly times when I make something and I'm like, oh, nope, this is not what I what I wanted it to look like.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing anything with this. I don't really care, but it also was nice to kind of read through this and, just be like, yes, sometimes we are going to be disappointed in what we make. And I feel like that also really translates into life, in that a lot of times we do things, we try something, even people in our lives, like there is disappointment, and that's okay, right? It's just part of living life. It's part of creating art. It's part of having a business. And so I found that I enjoy her emails for a variety of different reasons. And so every time I get one, I look forward to reading it, which is what I want people to say about my emails. And I'm pretty sure they don't. So I really
Yeah.
kind of like seeing hers.
Yeah. I I think that's really interesting because I think it shows that she's writing really like the way she's written this, and that what if I'm disappointed in what I make is almost, it's almost like something she must hear from her audience a lot,
Mhm.
and she's really honed in on this is something that people are going to worry about, and that my audience are just people that are doing this art for, like you, for that creative outlet. And for me, personally, I was like straight away, because my daughter wants to be an artist, and she's 9, so everything she creates, she's in that phase where everything has to be so perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to teach her actually with her art, you can do it just for fun. Like it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but that's a good, like you say, it's a good lesson for life as well. So it's nice that her emails kind of are centered around the art, but have that kind of lesson within them.
Yeah.
Definitely. Um, yeah. So she starts off here with the quote, which I thought was really interesting. And actually, she uses another one just further down here. Um, so obviously ties in the quotes, which is nice to kind of keep your interest. The other thing I really love here is this is where the color starts to come in.
Yeah.
Because these are quite long emails. All of her emails this kind of length generally.
Yeah, yeah, they seem to kind of follow a similar pattern of that they're all pretty long. There's definitely a few photos in there of
Mm.
art, which I also enjoy. I'm a very visual person. And, that is something that I look forward to seeing. Yeah, this one there, even it's got like the list of supplies that you might need. So it seems like her emails are all long, but there's a variety of different things. Oh, and this one too, I like the thoughtful questions. I shouldn't say I love journaling. Right. I love the idea of journaling. I don't always journal as much as I should, but I like questions that make me think. And I've been trying to kind of do that a little bit more in my writing, whether it's a blog or an email or really anything, a social media post, to put questions in to have people think about things. And so I kind of like that she did that as well. It was like, it's got the tips, it's got, some information, but then there's also those like questions so that you can think about things on your own.
Yeah, it does feel like you say it's that whole process, isn't it? Like she's kind of gearing you up to do it, then she shows you how to do it, and then that's that bit afterwards. And I like that she calls this thoughtful questions because they are quite thoughtful, aren't they? They're really, yeah, looking back at your art, what you created. They tie in really well. Yeah, that's really interesting that yeah, that she keeps this kind of length, but then it's almost like you know what to expect from it, so you kind of you know what's coming. And I kind of like that consistency sometimes in emails because I think yeah that can kind of, especially if you know that it's going to be long, you're like, but I know what's coming, I know what's like what the whole thought process here is behind the length of the email. um yeah, so I absolutely love that, and I love the colors that she's got in here that kind of like break up, so these blocks of colors, and like you say, the images of the art really break up the email, so you kind of, it's not just block text. And
Yeah.
then yeah, she's kind of got her little sign off again with a nice colorful block, and then it comes down to, this is the kind of the call to action, I guess we would call it, um, with her membership. And I'd be intrigued to know, have you ever kind of converted to that membership or not yet? No.
No, I never have. I mean, I haven't been on her list for like a really long time. But I mean, eventually I would like to take some more classes. I feel the way that things are right now. Again, I barely have time to do what I need to do. So doing what I
Yeah.
want to do is not always high on my priority list, as much as I hate to say it.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. And I know there's, times when I've heard people say it more and more recently of like people sometimes will be on your list for years before they actually do the thing.
Yeah.
As my kids get older and I have more free time, there's a better chance that I am going to start taking classes like this for myself. Where right now, it's more just, I don't know, I'm going to get what I can out of the emails and out of her YouTube videos. But eventually, if I can, I will, for sure sign up. And that's, I think an interesting place that a lot of us are in right now of, information overload and just too
Yeah.
much to do and not enough time. There's things
Yeah.
I'd love to do, just don't have time for it.
I think it's interesting as well because rereading this now, I noticed that she's got kind of doors closed tonight, so that is kind of closed for now. But yeah, I guess if she continues to send you emails like this over time, if and when she does reopen it, yeah, that might be when you go, okay, well, do I personally have that time now?
Yeah.
And then jump in there. And I agree with you. I think it's definitely a longer game these days than it used to be. I think people are not overwhelmed, but there's so many options of things to do now, isn't there? Not, outside of all those things, like you said, the kids, the family, there's so many hobbies that you can take up, and there's so much easy access to everything that it does take quite a longer time for people to go, okay, well, I am ready for this now. Um, the other thing I like is that she's obviously shared this kind of video because she does those within the membership, which is
Mhm.
quite clever because it's almost like a little bit of like a taster of what you could get more of. And I think she says, yeah, 65 videos within the membership. That's a lot, actually. Actually, that might put me off a little bit because I'm like, I've only just found the time to do this one.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is some of it for sure. But I think you're right. I do like being able to see somebody's teaching style with like that little bit,
Yeah.
because I have taken other courses, and that might be too some of my hesitation, in that I've signed up for things and then I get into it and I'm kind of like, oh, I don't really know if this is for me. Whether it's the way that they teach, it ends up being that the content isn't really what I thought it was going to be. And so, there could be a little hesitation on that front as well, of that, you know, I just need a little more time before I would decide for sure that this is something that's worth me spending my not just time, but also my money on, that I'm actually going to use it and enjoy using it. And, again, I think that's okay that it takes a little time, but I do like that I get to see a little bit of her style. And because yeah, I think there's definitely times when I've done people's like free challenges, and it's different than what's inside a course, because it's just structured differently and there's more like interaction with the audience sometimes that I feel like distracts from the actual messaging, where when I read through the emails and I watch the videos that are on the emails, it gives me more of a real idea of what it's going to be like.
Yeah, because that's a really good point because you're almost doing it self-paced, aren't you? You got this email on a certain date, but you can save it and do it in a couple of weeks, when you've got that free time. Um, Whereas, yeah, I agree. Some of those and I've run them myself, and I ran one of these like 7-day challenge things, and actually, I haven't done it again because yeah, sometimes that people they do the first couple of days and they're really really keen, and then that kind of yeah drops off. Whereas, yeah, this kind of self-paced thing is more reflective of what the membership might be like.
Hmm.
It's very clever in the way that she's kind of laid that out. The other thing I thought she did really well is obviously include because obviously she's got the quotes up above that are linked in with kind of the theme. But this one where she's got almost like a testimonial um, from somebody that's already a member. And the thing I really, really specifically like is that she's put this lady's actual day job in there, kind of again
Mm.
signaling like who her ideal audience. It's not necessarily people who want to be full-time artists. There's other courses for people that want to do that, but it is, yeah, perhaps, people that are working full-time but who want to kind of try that. So I thought that was a nice touch to have that kind of testimonial in there from someone that's her ideal client.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
actually, I don't think I noticed that until you say it, but I know that I read it and probably subconsciously realized, like, oh, these people are like me. They're not trying to be artists. They're just doing this because they want to have a hobby that they enjoy doing. And it really does relax my whole body, my brain, my body physically relaxes when
yeah.
I'm doing art that I enjoy. If I could get to that point where I stop worrying if it's perfect, it's more about the process and the way that it feels to hold a paintbrush or a pen or whatever I'm using. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I probably noticed it without consciously actually realizing that I noticed that.
And I think that's one of the things that I've tried to over the years. I've obviously learned it myself, also tried to teach people when I'm talking about the kind of the email marketing is it's those tiny little things where you're forever going back to like, who am I speaking to? Like, try and only speak to that one person. She's done that well here, but it's not something that comes naturally to us as writers. We kind of want to talk, we want to make sure we're including everybody, but actually, like you say, even if it's just something you're taking in subconsciously, it does, those little tiny things do kind of add up, don't they? And like her whole tone throughout the email is very supportive as well, which I think is another thing that kind of subconsciously you then kind of go, oh, I would like to work with this person because she's talking to me. Were there any other kind of bits in this email or with the emails that she sends that you particularly liked or disliked?
There's not really anything that I disliked. One of the things that I noticed that I like is that the email itself almost looks like art, like you pointed out the colors, but even, that one sentence is like bold, they're smaller, they're centered, which I don't ever write in that way, which just makes it visually something that my eye enjoys looking at. So even as I'm scrolling, because like you said, it's pretty long. So sometimes as I'm scrolling through, it just makes, I don't know, it just makes me feel good just to actually look at her emails, versus not just what I'm like reading. It looks nice. But I think some of it is that it's centered and there's like, yeah, the different sized fonts, some are bold, some are not bold. And that's just something that I have not been super comfortable doing myself. I tend to write very business-like when I write my emails. But again, I feel like sometimes my topic is kind of, it's not fun. It's not funny, like it's not something that is typically going to be associated with art, even though I did recently do an audience survey and people are interested in using art for grief. So I was like, oh, maybe I can include some of my art that I've been creating in my emails because again, it's not perfect, but some of it's really pretty. So I was like, maybe I can put some of that in and encourage people to use art. I don't know. I'm trying to figure this whole thing out, but I have been finding I like her emails a lot. And so that's why I just chose this one because I do think it's visually pretty.
It's brilliant. So I would just love to know where people can kind of find you if they did want to come and especially if they do want to get on your list.
Sure. So my business name is End of Life Clarity. And you can find me on all the social medias with that, hashtag or whatever you call it, handle, right? The at End of Life Clarity. That's also my website, and you can sign up for my emails and even get a copy of my workbook, Living a Better Life, because honestly, I do think that if we get okay with the fact that life is going to end, we actually do live a better life. So people can hop on my emails that way.
And it sounds instantly, even just with that workbook, it sounds like you've got that kind of value bit that we were talking about kind of nailed there with that kind of, yeah, people getting to come and get that resource. Well, fabulous. Thank you so much, Jill.
Oh, thank you so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. This was fun.
Bye.